Let's start with what binding options you can choose from, because this defines the aesthetic of the zine and also dictates how many pages you have. Or maybe the number of pages dictates which binding method you can choose. Chicken and egg, egg and chicken. So if you have up to 40 pages, we'd recommend wire stitching. So wire stitching, saddle stitching or stapling are all the same thing. The sheets are folded in half and then 2 staples are applied down the left hand side to bind the sheets together. So if we have a look at the mechanics here, a sheet is printed both sides and folded in half, then stapled. So a sheet has 4 pages on it. So we class as a page when we come to quote as an actual page of content. So here we've got a sheet which is printed both sides and folded. So we've got a left hand side, a right hand side, flip it over and another left and a right. So 4 pages. So this explains why we quote and we say a 4-page cover, because if you did go for a thicker material for the cover would have 4 pages. The front cover, the inside front cover, inside back cover, and the back cover, making a 4-page cover. So you can see the mechanics here, and they'll get 4 pages per sheet. So we need a multiple of 4 pages for this method of binding to work as a zine. So you can choose an 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36 or 40 page zine. 4 pages folded in half. So you can't have, for example, a 13 or a 25 page zine. 25 page zine would be 24 pages bound in and then just 1 page just flapping around. It doesn't work. So if you want to quote for a wire stitched booklet, make sure it's a multiple of 4 pages. 40 pages is the maximum that we suggest for wire stitching, because when you fold the sheets in half, that's 10 sheets, and we want to make sure that your zine sits as flat as possible. There's a few examples that I'm going to show you now to illustrate this. So here we can see Turves, which is a really nice zine, photography zine about greyhounds and dog training. So this is a 28-page self-cover onto 170-gram uncoated. So self-cover means that the entire publication, all of the sheets are printed onto the same paperweight. So all of the sheets, including the cover here, are onto 170 uncoated, 28 pages altogether. It's A5, and you can see it sits neatly on the desk. Here we have Swirl, which is a magnificent zine printed numerous times, and it really, really helps people with their mental health. It gives them action plans and gives them tips and advice and guidance on how to battle their mental demons. Really, really worthwhile publication. And we did print a lot of these for the children in the local area of Grenfell as well for free to try and help out with the issues that they're going through. Swirl is an A5 zine again. It has a total of 24 pages, but it's got a 4-page cover onto 300-gram uncoated with a matte lamination, and then it's got the inside pages onto 115 uncoated. So 300 gram for the cover, 115 for the inside pages, and you can see that the cover tends to bounce open. Paper inherently prefers to be flat. We can fold it, obviously, but once it's folded, it does tend to try and get back to flat again, so it always bounces open. People say, oh, can you make sure that my zine is flat and it sits flat on the table? We can say yes, but unfortunately, in all honesty, it's not possible. The paper does always try and bounce a little bit. So this is 24 pages altogether, and you can see that the cover is bouncing up a little bit. Now, like I said, we do recommend 40 pages maximum, but in theory, we can go up to 72 or 76. So here is, again, the brilliant Hate zine. And then this is actually 76 pages wire stitched. So this is at the absolute maximum limit possible. All the pages are onto 100 gram Evolution uncoated. So 100 gram is thin, but even taking into account how thin it is, you can see with 76 pages, there's a curl in the middle. There's a lot of bounce. The inside pages, you can see on the profile side here, they actually start from quite a long way away from the staples compared to the cover. So when we come to the right hand edge of Hate, to make sure that the right hand edge is trimmed flush and it's straight, those inside pages are actually end up being trimmed kind of 3 to 5 mil shorter than the other pages on the outer extremity of the zine. You see that? So on the left hand side, they're cutting in. They actually physically start from nearer the middle of the zine. So on the right hand edge, when those sheets are folded in half, we have to trim more off those pages to ensure it's flush on the outer edge. So therefore, if you've got any page numbers, so you do have to allow for the fact those pages are going to be trimmed smaller. Page numbers, always a good idea to keep at least 5 to 10 mil away from the page edge because of this very issue. It is spoken about on our website in our wire stitching setup guide in more detail. There's illustrations on there, but this video guide hopefully has helped you understand that problem too. So that's the issue of creep, where you go for a particularly chunky wire stitch zine and the inside pages are pushed out. So the fourth option we'll show you here is an A4 booklet called Courtyard. This is 16 pages in total. Because it's A4, the pages actually fall a little bit flatter, but 16 pages, again, is, if you look at the side here, is really, really neat. It creates a really, really neat publication. So you come to wire stitching. Zines, old school kind of zines that you'd make on a photocopier, they would all be printed onto the same paperweight anyway. So if you wanted to go down that route, that's definitely going to create a neater bind. If you did want to go for a thicker cover, 300 gram uncoated or 300 gram silk is the kind of go-to for the cover. And then 115 uncoated or 130 silk for your inside pages. But you could definitely reduce the cover weight a little bit, make it slightly flimsier, which will enable it to sit neater on the desk. But like I say, we're not going to lie and say it definitely won't bounce open. There is a high chance that it will do. It creates a bit of charm. It is paper after all, but having something tangible in people's hands is nicer than you just sending them a PDF. So that's wire stitching. So realistically, we say let's cap it at 40 pages. We can go a lot higher, but you do have to allow for creep and you have to allow for a lot of bounce if you go down that route.